prophecies, revelations, economic collapse, martial law, social and civil war, aliens, human hybrids, Nephilim, the Great Deception, world chaos, tsunamis. You want to stay tuned for special edition End Time Revelations with Pastor Henry Schaefer and Pastor Steve Hall. Hello, everybody, and thanks for joining us on our program starting right now called Project Seer, End Time Revelations, Special Editions, and today we have a great topic for you. I am Pastor Steve Hall from the Johnson Church of God and host for the show, and also second host for the show is Pastor Henry Schaefer. Good to see you, my brother.
I'm glad to be in the studio with you today, Brother Steve. It's a beautiful day outside. The temperature's changing. The Masters is going.
Yeah.
And we've got a lot to share with everybody. I hope they tuned in over there and checking us all out.
We got something more exciting than a golf ball on a green grass field, ain't it?
We know that, don't we?
Yeah, it's not hard to beat that in my book, but a lot of people love it.
Go ahead and tell them who we're going to be talking about, what we're going to be talking about here.
Well, there's this guy on YouTube. I mean, you got all kind of people on YouTube, but not everybody's got the intelligence that Bob Lazar has.
Exactly.
Bob Lazar. This man is a high degree science, and you said that he's a nuclear
propulsionist engineer.
Yeah.
Propulsion engineer.
Propulsionist engineer.
That's right.
And he is, he got so smart that they wanted him out at a place called S4, which is around a few miles, I think it's 13 miles from Area 51. Those of you who know anything about Area 51, that is where the spaceships are all kept. When I say spaceships, I don't mean them that we've built. I mean alien
That's right.
craft. And so we're going to be talking about alien craft that Bob Lazar was hired to go out and try to figure out what is the propulsion system of these alien craft. And it is a very, very interesting topic.
He's an amazing man.
He is.
And there's a lot that you can find on YouTube about him. And just go there, Lazar.
Mm-hmm.
And, he started his career back in the mid-'80s and, working out there at Area 51. And he worked at it like 5 or 6 months when you look at how long he was out there. And he kind of got concerned about what he was working on.
Yes.
And only just a few people knew what they were working on. So he was really concerned about that. So, I think he got kind of loose with some of the information as far as, bringing some people out there in the middle of the night looking out over the mountains.
To watch the spaceships as they would do their test flights.
Yeah, I think it was every Wednesday night they said that they could go out there. And also they looked at him as being because he would be called at all hours of the night.
That's right.
To come and go to work. So it wasn't like regular hours. But with that being said, is that they kind of they listen in on their phones. Remember the story about they listened in on his phone and would find out that his wife was having an affair or seemed to be having an affair, and kind of thought that he might be unstable. So they was kind of working both ends of this thing here, knowing he's kind of got loose on some information, and all. So they kind of like thinking that he might not be able to be classified as high as he was. But he had, was it crypto clearance?
And Area S4 was higher clearance than Area 51.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had higher clearance than those guys because he actually got to go into these alien spacecraft
and work on them.
And try to figure out with his scientific brain how to operate their propulsion system, how to duplicate it, how to re-engineer it so that Americans could start building their own spacecraft.
And one of the things, too, about Bob Lazar, when you look at him, is that he's talking about they wanted somebody who would think out of the box. They wanted somebody who kind of like I'm going to say off the gun, off the hip shooting, but yeah, he's the one who would always cause problems. He was always the one that'd be late. He'd always, they wanted somebody
Right.
who did not fit the norm because they're dealing with some things that the
was
normal people
not
are dealing
normal.
with are not able to figure it out. So we got to get someone who thinks out of the box. And this guy here is just an amazing story when you start studying him.
If our listening audience has access to YouTube, they need to look up Bob Lazar and listen to this man's testimony. Now, you're going to hear some people say, well, we can't find out any information on him. We've researched trying to prove his credentials. And what he says is when he was dismissed or left, I think he was actually left on his own free will, that agency, that they began to try to erase him. And what that means is they began to take away his credentials as far as his background was
Made it
concerned.
like he never existed.
They were trying to wipe him out.
Yeah.
And eventually his fear was they're going to kill me. They're
Right.
going to get rid of me out of my college degrees. And nobody's going to be able to find anything about me out. And then next thing you know, nobody's going to find me at all.
Right.
Because they would take him out. So he went public with
Yeah.
all of his knowledge. Everything he knew, he just started throwing out there. And that was his only safety net, according to him, because if he could convince the public that he was really there and that he had all this knowledge that nobody else was privy to, then that would give him a security blanket, knowing that if they ever killed him, somebody's going to be investigating who killed him and why they killed him and where is he at.
That's right. It's kind of an amazing story.
It is, and I wouldn't want to be in his shoes later on in life because this
He's
was
still
in the-
alive. He's still alive today now.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be in his shoes, but in 88, 89 that he was actually out there in
Yeah.
the S4 area. Now I've heard him on a recent televised interview say that he wished he had never left because there was now so much more. If he'd have still been in that inner circle, he would have his head full of stuff that nobody except for a few in the world had a clue about. But he has already, just for the months that he worked out there, he came away with some awesome, intelligent things that he saw from these alien spacecrafts.
Yeah.
So we just lost half our listeners right there. But stick with us. You might change your mind in just a little while.
I really enjoyed just listening to his story because I had never heard of Bob Lazar, but he came out revealing all the things about Area 51. They've done many documentaries about him.
Yes.
Even talking about doing movies, put some movies out. Some things that prepping everybody for what's really. I think they're prepping everybody for hey, this is real. And if anything, we're here on the radio talking about it, telling you is, first of all, you can look at, here's our disclaimer for today. And I guess, I always need to say this from now on. This could be very disturbing. To some people, this could be very disturbing.
It might.
Because it might.
Mess up their paradigm.
Yeah, and it messes their world up. Especially a lot of preachers. I mean, they've already tuned us out.
Yeah.
In that. But here's what we're looking at. And I always go back to what the scriptures tells us in Genesis chapter 6, that there were giants in those days. There was Nephilims, that the angels came down, mated with women, and they had giants that were in the land. Now, if you can believe that, and most pastors don't believe that, so, I mean, you're never going to really understand the Bible unless you can get past that. Hey, there were giants in the land in those days.
Right.
Goliath was one of them. He wasn't 7 feet tall. He was pretty tall.
Yep.
And when they went into the promised land, they were in there getting rid of giants. Hello, everybody. So, and if you look at all these megalithic type of monuments that are around in the world, how did they build all this stuff? And, with these little small men, something supernatural has happened. And they know that today we don't have the technology to build a lot of the things that they built back in what we say caveman days, or back in those days when they should not have known how to do any of this. So we evidently somehow have gotten dumber over the years. And now all of a sudden at the last, we are rediscovering and we're saying, hey, listen, we know what's going on here. Well, if we take this and we put it all together, again, that this could be very disturbing. This could be used today only as entertainment. You hear Project Seer is an entertainment program, or it can be biblically based.
Yeah.
You can look at it that way there, or you can say, hey, these guys here have lost it altogether.
But we're presenting an alternate view.
Yeah.
I mean, the scripture, we are not trying to twist any scripture. Listen, we believe in the word of God unequivocally. It is God's word. It is and was, still is today, established by God. It is infallible. It is perfect in every way. And I must throw a disclaimer, and I throw this in because in its original, it was exactly what the people in that day understood, and they knew what was being said. Now, because of language barriers and translation, sometimes we lose the sense and the tense of what is being said.
Yeah.
But if you do your homework a lot of times, you'll find out what's written has greater, what is interpreted, actually the original writing has greater depth of information than how it's interpreted into English or into whatever language. And I enjoyed those type studies. And when you're talking about Genesis 6, that's when you need to get into the study of the words, and you'll come out with a different conclusion of this simple, our modern idea of what happened. We try to make sense and logic out of everything, but you can't make logic out of sons of God, the sons of God, the fallen angels mating with women and having children. You got to go to another dimension, and then you got to try to say, instead of trying to make it fit our paradigm the way we see it, how does the Word of God say it? Because the Word of God means exactly what it says. And the phrase there is the B'nai Elohim, is sons of God. And every time it's used in Scripture, it talks about fallen angels or angels.
The Nephilim is the fallen ones.
Yes.
The ones who have fallen.
It's so simple in the original, but we've had so many people that's clouded up trying to interpret it correctly, politically correct for our generation.
Yeah, so someone says, well, I've never heard anything like this. I've never heard of, how does that play into Christendom today? Well, I look at what Daniel tells us in the book of Daniel. He tells us that a lot of things will be sealed up until the end time.
I agree.
And he also says that in the last days, knowledge would abound. Mm-hmm. So where things have, someone said, well, I've never heard anything like that before. My pastor, he never told. Well, I'm telling you, because we're this close to the end, that God is revealing knowledge and giving knowledge. If the world is going to increase in knowledge, in all types of things, why not in the Scriptures as well? Is that things that were sealed up until the end, and knowledge would abound. And God is now releasing knowledge to his people, so his people is not going to be deceived. So let's look at this here, is that if there were giants in those days in Genesis 6, and Jesus said in the last days it would be as well, like
as in the days of Noah.
As in days of Noah, then what are we dealing with? What are we dealing with these type things? And that's where we're just throwing out these different prophecies and different thought patterns or in different subjects. Bob Lazar says, now he thinks them as only as terrestrial beings that have come from the stars come down to Earth in these spaceships. But
we don't hold that belief.
No,
that's not our idea.
The Christian belief is this here, that they're interdimensional beings, demons,
right,
demonic beings that are set on a course to deceive man. And when the deception comes in, it comes in through, you were seated here on this earth from way back in the day, from Veda Reticuli or some area out there. But they are demons that have technology, and they are able to share that with beings, with us, and now they're setting on this course pattern to deceive man. So Bob Lazar was able to work on this equipment that these demonic beings have produced. Mm-hmm. And so now he starts his career, but all along he's thinking he's working on extraterrestrial spaceships.
Yes.
And I believe as well is that they are demonic and that they have produced these things, and it has an underlying project is to deceive all mankind into focusing on those type things, instead of realizing that there's a God and that he said these things are going to happen. Stay focused on what I've told you to do. Don't be deceived.
Yes.
But at the same time, in the deception, don't be deceived, is the way that you're not going to be deceived is to know what's going on. Does that make sense?
It makes sense to me. And, what we're dealing with is alien or fallen angel technology. When the third of Lucifer's angelic realm came down with him, they didn't lose their mind. They didn't lose their abilities. The only thing that they lost was access to places like in God's holiest of holies. I don't believe they can go there. Now, we know that they can appear before God, according to the book of Job. They can appear with the sons of God. But this alien technology that is here is demonic, as you said. It is angelic. It is fallen angels, Lucifer being the chief of among those. And so you got to remember now, these angels were way back. They got technologies that we never knew. They seen and know things from eternity, where they have actually been in the presence of God, worshiped God, seen him do these things. And so they bring a different mindset, a different world, if you want to call it, to play against us. And this technology that they have is the technology that we credit to the aliens, like you said.
Right.
And it's really not alien technology. It is demonic technology. Even the aliens, we believe, are a hybrid mix of angelic race with human and other species.
Just like it was in the days of Noah.
Just like it was, as the Bible says, in the days of Noah. It's the exact return of the Nephilim and then the offspring of those, which would be the Rephilim. And it's amazing that people, when we say this, they just, shrug their shoulders and shake their head and roll their eyes because they don't want to even think about it.
Yeah.
It's like put my head back in the box. I don't like the box being taken off my head.
Yeah.
I had figured out everything in my box, and now you messing me up.
Well, it's like people, we believe in being baptized in the Holy Ghost, speaking in tongues as being Pentecostal.
Yeah.
Well, there's people who says, well, I don't want to believe in that. Don't change what I believe about the Bible. So they put that on their head.
Put the head back in the
box. And they said, as long as no one talks to me about it, no one teaches me about it, then I don't have to learn that there's no more about it than that.
Yeah.
And so therefore, it's not for me, and it doesn't exist. Now, once the head goes off, and you go, whoa, yeah, so look at here, it is real, and look, I got it now. Now your world changes, and you even read the Bible different.
Yes, it opens up to you.
Because you have experienced that. And then once you start to believe, hey, there are demons, and that they are real, and those kind of things are going on, go ahead. Let me go ahead and take this.
And let me
That's
tell you,
somebody else.
willful.
That's Maryland trying to call me.
Oh my goodness!
Look at that.
We ain't got time for Maryland right now.
No, we don't. That might have been the president from Maryland up that way, Virginia.
Might have been tell us he's tuned in.
Tuned in, listening to us.
We should have took his call.
We'll give him a red phone like
the hotline.
Yeah, what was that hotline? I can't remember.
Batman.
Yeah, but that was another guy who did that.
Batman had the hotline and the series Batman when I was a kid.
They could call it the bat phone.
It's the bat line.
But anyway, so those kind of things, your paradigm changes once your knowledge increases, even with the baptism of the Holy Ghost. If you believe in demons and you start realizing, hey, there's people who can be messed up with them, influenced, then that changes. And then once you start realizing that the Bible with giants are real, then you got to start thinking about the end time. It's got to change. And your whole world starts to, listen here, look at all the deception going on. Look at all the UFOs. But this guy, Bob Lazar, was an amazing man. He, right now, when you look at how old is he is about 57 years old, born in 1959.
Okay.
And he reverse engineered the spacecraft. So they would send him in because of how smart he was to look at what we have here. And he would reverse engineer the propulsion systems. And that's kind of what we're going to be talking about more into that, the propulsion system. But that was his forte. So they sent him in, go into Area 51. He would fly in, and then they would put him in on a bus. He'd fly into Area 51.
And bus him in.
And then bus him from Area 51 to S4 in a blacked out bus. They didn't know where they were going. But they would say, well, there's no one says at Area 51. It says, we never saw any aliens there. And he would tell you, right, because there aren't none there.
Right.
They are in Area 50, S4, the area that he was at. And also what I found out studying about him is that there were not a whole lot of people who worked in S4.
That's correct.
There's only 20, 21, 22.
And he said there was a list, and everybody on the list knew everybody else's name that was on the list.
And he says he knows who was there and he keeps that list to himself.
Yes.
So that when people pop up and they'll say, well, I know Bob Lazar, and he'll say, what's your name? And he'll say, okay, but I don't remember you working there with me. Well, I was there anyway.
That's right.
In those kind of things. So that's kind of his secret little way of knowing that whether someone's trying to get in close to him. Go ahead.
So this spacecraft propulsion system is very interesting because it works off of gravity.
Yeah.
And you know a little bit more about that than I do. We've been talking about that for a couple of weeks now. And it's very interesting that when you can distort gravity or create gravity, then you can change time and space.
Oh, it's amazing.
The possibilities are then out of what we call the normal. What do we call that? The known properties, the known boundaries of science.
Yeah.
When you can change one of those three, and gravity being one of those, then you have changed the paradigm that man has lived in and understood for at least our lifetimes. You know,
Right.
you go back to the ancient alien time, then yeah, you're probably back in the same understanding.
Remember what he said? He was saying that when they drove out there, they would get out of their bus, and it'd be a mountain. Look, I mean, they were just like in the middle of a tarmac, and they look all around and say, "Where are we going here at?" And there's like a little walkway, and as he walked up to this
The
walkway,
bays would open.
the bays would open up, and it was like at the edge of a mountain where the mountain range came down, and the front of all the bays where they had all the spacecraft was stored at was sand colored.
Yeah,
Like it
looked
was
just like the mountain.
Looked just like the mountain. So, you know, you had to be right up on it to know, or even that, you had to be told that was there. And then he went into the building. As he would walk into the building, he would go in, and there'd be like a little area, kind of a little reception area there. And then, do you remember the story?
Yeah.
As he would walk down through the areas where he was going to work
bays.
he could look at Bay 1 and listen. You know, I had it written down as he was telling the story. The different bays that he had as he was looking down through there. So I kind of took me some notes there. Is that in Hangar 1 was what he called the sports model. And that's one that he got to work on.
Yep.
He really liked that one there. And then he said Bay 2 was empty. And then he looked down, and there was like the Roswell craft was in number 3, where it was at the one that crashed at Roswell was there.
And that's the one that had some damage to part of it and
It
covered with the
yep,
tarp.
and it was retrieved. You know, it was retrieved in 1947. They had that one in Bay 3, and then he had the Orion craft was in number 4. Number 5, there wasn't nothing in it. I don't believe he said. In Roswell, there was number 6 was a Roswell craft. A F-22 Raptor was designed after what was there in number 6. He said it looked just like it, but it wasn't it.
Yeah.
But it looked like it. And then Kingman craft was put together in 1953. It showed up. In number 8 was the Licorice Drop. It was a triangle-shaped aircraft that was in it that you see flying around. He says that it was the one that was in number 8. And then number 9, I think he said it was empty or nothing was there. But anyway, so he was able to walk down through there and look. He was just so amazed. And as he came up to these spacecrafts, he's thinking, first of all, that we have made these things.
Yes, he said that was his first.
That he says, man, this is why everybody's thinking they're seeing stuff.
Right.
This is stuff that we have made. You know, and that's why they think these are flying.
That was his first glance before he got into the briefing room where they gave him his files.
Yeah, and then he sat down and started looking at everything, going, no, this is not stuff we've made. This is stuff that we have recovered, and that this is extraterrestrial, that he thought. And he's seeing these things. Are we doing all right telling the story?
Yeah, I think we're doing good telling
Because
the story. I don't know if we're believable or not.
Yeah, but what he's doing, getting ready to do, he's getting ready to come up to this propulsion system.
Yes, the anti-gravity, gravity.
So this guy, he's taking the place of a person who has died. And what they had tried to do was actually open up one of the operating systems of the propulsion sections
of the alien craft.
And
it all got blowed up.
And it blew up. And it blew up, and it killed several people.
Yes.
And he was one of the engineers.
They took one of the other dead guy's place. Well, they learned a lesson that day. You don't cut into the anti-gravity or gravity containers because you get blowed up.
So now, all of a sudden, he hooks up with his buddy. And his buddy, and they paired up in buddies, you know, and that's the only person you're going to work with because they have compartmentalized security. So he's working with his buddy, and he said that he was so excited to see him. Says, "Man, you are not gonna believe this. What you getting ready to see, you are not gonna believe." And he was just like a little kid.
Yeah.
He said, "Come on, let me show you what we got here." And then this is kind of like where it really picks up. He said, "Let me show you how this thing operates." Now, in this spacecraft that he takes him to work on, there's like several levels of the spacecraft. But because he didn't have to have access to all the other areas of the spacecraft, he was confined to a certain level that was in this spacecraft because that's where his propulsion system was at. He didn't need to know all the rest of it, and that's how they keep it secure. So his friend now takes him in there to this I don't know what you call it, like the propulsion part of it. Yeah. And he said it was about the size of a basketball. on a plate about half the basketball size, and he said, "Here it is. This is it." And I'm gonna let you pick up because you were doing a good job telling that part of the story about what they were looking at there.
It gets kind of sketchy. He does draw some drawings. If you get in some of his YouTube videos, he would draw, there's like 2 layers, and beneath the floor that you would stand on, there's these 3 containers. Maybe they would, if somebody sees a scuba diver and they got that tank on their back, they could visualize 3 of those tanks. 2 of those tanks would be vertically standing, and the other one would be laid horizontal, and it could be moved around and pointing in a direction like we were talking about earlier. And
we're gonna get into why they were able to be moved, to be pointed in different directions.
And so, he was on the second layer, and he had to stick his head down through this little hole and look and see those canisters down there. But then in the area that he was at in the control station, there wasn't a lot. It's a very small craft, but there was not a lot of things around. Like you when you see our spaceships or you see an airplane, you see switches and knobs and all this stuff. And he says none of that was there. So it was a complex, simple system.
Simple is what I get out of it. It wasn't like
bells and whistles everywhere.
It wasn't like Star Trek.
No, not at all.
With all the buttons and all the things and everything. It's kind of like pointed in this direction. Let's go. It's kind of that's just kind of like all you got to have. Like an automobile, you don't have to have all those bells and whistles.
No,
just steer and let's go. Crank it up and let's go. And that's kind of like what it was.
And it's amazing when we see the spacecraft and we say, "Oh, the technology they must have," and it's true. It's
now there might be more than what we know. This is all we know that he will reveal,
that he knew about.
Right.
But it seems even from others that talk about the interior of these spacecraft is there's not a lot of what we would call technology, buttons, bells, and whistles that would just confuse people. So he goes in and he's looking at this and he's quite amazed and begins to do the theories and to go through it, and he figures out a lot, I think, in just a short time, the few months that he is there. And he actually gets to see some test flights. He says that, he walks out there, he's told to be there at a certain time in the yard, and then he goes out in the yard and there's this spacecraft, and it makes a little humming noise at the beginning and then goes silent and floats up and goes up and down, moves around. He says it wobbles a little bit. It's a little bit unstable, I think, the closer it gets to Earth. And he said that's part of what he did. He got to see all the stuff, and then he begins to do maybe the understanding of the research, and that's where we can pick it up at the gravity, anti-gravity, time-space warp. And that's when you get into the Star Trek stuff.
Yeah, right. And, and one thing, he was talking about the fuel in it and element 115. And when we talk about this element 115, I'm not sure if this is where we need to bring this in at. But
Sounds
listen,
good. Let's go with it.
Yeah, let's just do this right here. It is 2:28. We're almost to the bottom of the hour here. We're going to go ahead and let me see if I can't just bring us something on here. We're going to take a break here real quick and just tune right on in. Stay tuned in right here. We're going to be right back after this.
Hi, this is Tim Coaches with 99.9 WUCC Williston, Aiken, Augusta, a ministry owned by 2 local pastors right here in Aiken. Our mission is to preach the gospel of Jesus Christ 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Now, I'd like to tell you about a new ministry tool, a way to speak to 1.5 million people in the Aiken-Augusta metropolitan area, or as I'd like to say, a non-intrusive way to step into somebody's car or home or even at work. Question, what other ministry tool can do that? Well, right now, we're looking for your sponsorship. And if you can go to our website, check us out, I think you'd be impressed. Go to www.cwchrist.com. That's www.cwchrist.com. And thanks for listening to the new 99.9 WUCC.
I believe volunteering is a perfect opportunity to have fun and meet new people.
To have a better sense of what's going on in the world.
To put a smile on someone's face.
To learn something new.
Try something new.
Try something new. That's
Always try something new. Volunteering is a lot of people working together for one thing, one common goal, I guess you could say.
Volunteering is redefining yourself.
There's always something in it for you.
I enjoy it because I have fun, and people that you meet, the emotions that you read off of them are something you can't really get anywhere else.
You see a new perspective on life.
It really changes your outlook on how you view life.
Everything you give, the little pieces add together, And so every time you volunteer, the little things come together and they create the bigger picture, and eventually that will be what you call your life.
You can volunteer your time at WCC to help reach a harvest. Call 803-617-9571.
Okay, and we are back at studios of WUCC. You are right inside the world of Project Seer. Could be very disturbing in the things you're going to hear, change of paradigm in the world, but I'm telling you what, it sure will pull the veil off your eyes so that you can see that. You have to almost look at this. If this is real, if this is real, what is the government hiding from us? And if this is real, then how does this play in the end time deception? And that's what we're here to do, is just kind of throw these things out here. Project Seer, Special Edition, End Time Revelations. And I believe that's what we have, that God is really revealing a lot of things, allowing things to come out. And show that, hey, well, there's people who said, and they've studied this here. I mean, the engineers have studied this, and they're saying what we're seeing is not normal. It's paranormal. It is demonic. They're saying this stuff is demonic, everybody. So pastors, these secular people are saying this stuff is demonic. So if it's demonic, which I know you don't believe in, well then, so it doesn't really affect you. But us pastors who do believe in the demonic, we know that it does play into what we're dealing with here in the last days. So here's what we're looking at. We're talking about element 115.
Which we can't produce.
We can't produce. And
it's not on our table. It's not on a periodic table.
So they know this element had to be given to them.
Right.
And so that we know that they're working towards, okay, can we develop this? Can we bombard certain elements, 112, 113, 114? How can we create this? So they were able to get their hands on this 115 because it's supernatural. They got it, and they were able now to start studying this here. But I think before we go into that, we got a little video here. We're going to try to play some things about Bob Lazar. The interview. Let me see if I can't get this.
Yeah, let's
go ahead
put
and
him
talk
on.
to him. You talk to me for a minute. Let me get it queued
Yeah,
up
so that
real
element
quick.
115 is the secret element in their gravity propulsion system, and we cannot produce it. But from what I understand, it was about 500 pounds of this stuff was given to us as a gift from some of the aliens, or else it was confiscated from some of the aliens and some of the spacecraft.
Okay.
It might have been confiscated.
Let's just see what we got right here. We're going to run just a few minutes of this and let him talk a minute. You ready?
Yeah.
High-tech surveillance equipment around the world, and even in space, has allowed global intelligence to see and be aware of many things that the common civilian cannot even begin to imagine. The military recruits many talented civilians when special expertise is required. And propulsion systems expert Bob Lazar claims he was one of them. In this exclusive interview, he gives his detailed account of his employment with the Department of Naval Intelligence at the top-secret facility known as S4,
Papoose Lake.
where, according to Bob, he was hired to work on recovered alien spacecraft. S4 is located 125 miles north of Las Vegas and 15 miles south of Groom Lake. This now not-so-secret military base at Groom Lake, Nevada, is known as Area 51, or Dreamland, as insiders like to call it. Born in 1959 in Coral Gables, Florida, Bob has lived much of his life in Las Vegas, Nevada. With degrees in physics and electronics from MIT and Caltech, he has dabbled in everything from chemistry to fireworks in an effort to understand the finer points of propulsion. He has even assembled a jet car with a 22,000 horsepower engine salvaged from a Navy F-3D Skynight.
Wow.
That is capable of land speeds of over 350 miles per hour. Fate took a serious turn for Bob in 1982. Arriving early for a lecture at Los Alamos National Laboratory in New Mexico given by Dr. Edward Teller, one of the inventors of the atomic bomb, Bob was able to meet and talk to the famous physicist. Coincidentally, Dr. Teller was reading the local paper, The Monitor, with a featured front-page article on Bob, and the two struck up a conversation. Later, Bob sent Dr. Teller his resume for consideration, and soon after, Bob was hired by the Los Alamos National Laboratory. This Los Alamos-based directory lists Bob as an employee. By 1989, Bob was brought into the top-secret program at S4, known as Project Galileo. In the following interview, Bob reveals many details of this amazing experience. Did you witness any disk technology at Area 51?
No, there was absolutely no ET craft, ET technology, anything like that at Area 51. This is why S4 was made specifically to separate it there. People at Area 51 do not have the clearance.
How long were you employed at S4, and when were you hired?
When was I hired at S4? I guess early '89, and I was probably there only about 6 months or so, on a very infrequent basis.
How were you transported to and from work?
At the time that I was working there at McCarran International Airport in Las Vegas, there was a Special Projects EG&G building. When I was told to go to work, I drove there, parked my car there, and got in a plane at the airport, flew to Groom Lake, where I deplaned and waited for a bus, and the bus drove me down to S4.
Now, I'm going to see
The
if I can
S4
fast forward
facility
this
is
to where he
an
talks about
area
propulsion system.
just
Go ahead
off
and pick it
the
up.
Papoose Lake bed.
So, yeah, he's filling us in on his beginning of his short-lived career at S4. And this is Bob Lazar, and he's going to start telling us about some of the things that he saw, how amazed that he was. But this guy is not the standard run-of-the-mill like we are in intelligence. He's got a brain that can think around things that would just block us for about ever. So he's thought through some of these things. He's looked at these technologies, and this is his own personal testimony that we'll pick back up here in just a second, so that you can get some of his own words instead of just us talking about him. He'll talk for himself.
Let's see where he's at here.
Tell us about the briefing files. Under what conditions did you gain access to them?
I was put into the briefing room with 121 or 22 briefings, and really was just told to sit and read through them. I think they were there just to mainly educate me on what was going on. They weren't a complete in-depth explanation on everything else, but just essentially a brief synopsis on some of the other projects that were going on there. Supposedly, the information, now this isn't something that I determined, it's something I was told, that the crafts originated from a planet that orbited the Zeta Reticuli star system. Zeta Reticuli 1 and Zeta Reticuli 2 are two stars of a binary star system. The craft allegedly came from there. One or two autopsy photographs I saw dealt with just a small photograph, a bust shot essentially, just head, shoulders, and chest of an alien where the chest was cut open in T fashion and one single organ was removed. The organ itself in the other picture was cut and vivisectioned essentially.
So we know that he saw the pictures of the aliens that was there, and he's just being briefed so that he knows that now this stuff, you got to realize his paradigm's changing. This is real stuff that he's seen here. Go ahead and talk here. I'm gonna see if I can't bring it on up to where he may even talk about the where he's talking about on the blackboard and that.
Yeah, if we can find him on the blackboard where he draws some of the pictures, he draws the bays, and he gets into the drawing of the spacecraft and the three containers that are on the second level, which he sticks his head down and looks in and sees these cylinders, and they create gravity. And once you can create gravity, which we cannot do, which we probably can do, but it's not known to everybody that we have this technology, and it is also theorized, and it's probably true, that we have got our own spacecraft at this point, and that we can pretty much fly a spacecraft and look like an alien spacecraft, but it would be, you could write USA right on the side of it, because there would be a pilot that was absolutely human that would be driving it, because you got to figure out this is in 89, it's 2016.
Right.
All these things that he's talking about is old information as far as gravity, anti-gravity. They probably not, they went past the theory of it into the production of it, into the test flying of it, even into the production of spacecraft.
So he's talking about this element 115. So let me just go ahead and jump in there. So what I've learned about it and piece this together for space and time, and I shared this with you as far as there are certain laws as far as we do electricity. E over I times R, P over I times E. And when you look at these, and you learn these laws, and you're going to work with electricity, you know that if you're going to have wattage is the exemplified by P being power, but it's E over I times R, P over I times E. So if you're going to have work done, which is wattage, then if you increase your voltage, your amperage goes down. We electricians, we just know that. You just have to. There are certain laws you just have to say. If I'm going to work in this field, I got to know this. So if I'm going to run my, say, well motor that has so much wattage to make it work, then I know that if I increase my voltage, my amperage goes down. So if you have a well that pulls, say, that runs at 120 volts, and it has 10 amps that's gonna work with it. If you can change certain dynamics, but your wattage still has to work. It has to be there. So if I increase my voltage, my wattage is cut by half. If I increase it by half, my amperage goes down by half. So that's how it works. And you just know this here. I mean, I'm going, someone said, this guy's already lost my head. I'm going, well, I'm just trying to say that's the way it works. Well, he learned this here, and he teaches this as well as far as gravity and time. And that if you can, your gravity and time and your travel, being able to travel, he says that if you can increase your gravitational field, then your time travel, your time goes down. You increase your gravity, time travel goes down, the amount of time it takes to go there. And you can actually create what they talk about the wormholes by being able to pull 2 points together. So let's do this here. Let's take a gravitational field, an object, and we're like a flashlight, and we're going to shine it towards an object. And we're going to increase the gravitational field between 2 points. If you can increase the gravitational field between 2 points, what has to happen? I told you the law is your time goes down. Right. So as you increase and then amplify between 2 points, your time goes down. That's how they know that they can move between 2 points. And this is what Einstein was saying. He was saying that if you could increase gravitational field between 2 points, time travel goes down. I'm going, I got it. Right. I understand it. This is simple. This is just like being electrical fields that we were trained in. So when we started looking at this with him, he is saying that these aliens are not able to create gravity. They can't create gravity, but what they do is they can amplify gravity. So what they have to do, though, is they have to have an element that the natural gravitational field extends beyond the bounds of the atom. See, most atoms, when we deal with electricity, you have the electrons that are floating around. Those are the loose electrons that bump as you create electricity as it moves down the line. And your gravitational field of the atom is encapsulated by the atom. It never extends greater than the atom itself. This element 115, though, is something that they have found out, that the gravitational field extends beyond the atom. Once it extends beyond the atom, they say now we can take an atom, the field around this atom of 115, and we are now able to amplify it. It's just like the words that I'm saying right now. As I say these words, even I get very low going, hey, 1, 2, 3. Then if you have that little bit of sound, then you, through your electronics, you can amplify it to make me sound very loud. Well, that's the way it is with gravity. It has to be beyond the bounds of the atom. And they found it with 115, that they have this little bit of field around it. Now the aliens are able to take this and be able to amplify it. Now they did that in the spacecraft with these 3 amplifiers that would be in the spacecraft, and there would be 3 of them hanging down between floors, between certain structured decks. Right. 2 pointed down, and 1 they would actually be able to spin and point in any direction. And if they can point that gravitational field towards an object where they want to go at, then all of a sudden, and because it distorts the gravitational field between 2 points, then all of a sudden the spacecraft just takes off. It moves that quick between 2 points. That is how that he says they have learned how to distort the gravitational field between 2 points. And now, if they can do that between, say, 2 points, say between here and a planet, you know what I mean? Then they can move between here and that planet. And the time distortion is in effect as well, because as they are able to increase the gravitational field between 2 points, And I'm talking about amplified. The greater your amplification, the greater the time, the less time it takes to travel between 2 points.
Mm-hmm.
And the less in this, as you decrease your gravitational field, of course, your time now goes back to normal. This is the same thing as, I'm not saying, I'm just saying I grasp the concept.
Yeah.
Because he does such a great job when you study Bob Lazar and you sit there and you just let him speak to you on a blackboard,
Mm-hmm.
and he just speaks to you and teaches you. If you have anywhere a mind of electricity, you know what I mean? And because I did, that's where I came from. That's the background that I came from. And I would even teach some of this information as well. Once you start understanding the principles of inverse proportion, if this goes up, this goes down. And if you increase you have to just grasp this concept. If you can magnify and increase your gravity field between 2 points, the time goes down.
Yeah.
You've got to just grasp that. And if you can grasp that concept, you can move anywhere and do anything. And that's what these beings are doing. And then they can move across dimensions. They can move across space and time. And that's how wormholes are. Now, I understand the wormhole concept.
Mm-hmm.
Is how between two gravitational fields, between two stars, I'm not talking about stars that are, our star is considered a dwarf, considered
small.
Very, very small between some of these other constellations that are out there. But if you have these two stars that have gravitational fields that are so strong and they're pulling between each other, is that you can create a wormhole between the two, because you have now messed with the time continuum, and it just takes just go through the wormhole and you're there, because you have distorted gravity. And if gravity fields are so strong, your time has to go down through the wormhole.
One of the illustrations he gave, that actually they made this experiment, is what they did around one of these gravitational force fields.
The candle.
Yeah, they had a candle, and before that they cranked up the gravity amplifiers and around this element 115, and it created a shield, and they could not any longer touch. They couldn't put their hand on it because something would stop them. So they got a ball and throwed it at it, and said that when they threw it, the ball did never touch the I would hesitate to call it a machine, but the producer of the gravity
had no moving parts.
Had no moving parts, so it's not a machine. I don't know how to describe it. And so anyway, it repelled it. In other words, you could throw anything you wanted to at this gravity amplifying equipment, and it wouldn't hit it. You couldn't hit it with your hand. Nothing would go through. It was a shield, and that's just like something off of Star Wars.
Yeah.
And he said, "Shields up, Scotty." And boom, and then no matter what they threw at it, laser beams or what the Klingons did, you couldn't get through the shield. And it's amazing that gravity changes everything that we think is a law in our universe. Because if you can mess up the gravity, then you can mess with the laws of the universe.
If you can't create gravity, but you can amplify gravity. And that's what they're saying.
And that's what they're saying.
That's where they come up with this gravity, anti-gravity type movement and things like this. How do these big, huge, heavy these big machines move through space, and they have no propulsion as far as like rockets and things like that. So they know that if you can create gravity, amplify gravity, and you have an element. So what they do with this 115 is it's in this dome-shaped, half the size of a basketball. And they put the element in there. They open it up, have the little lid. They open it up, stuck it down in there. That's how they knew what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then they would bombard it with protons. Being able to accelerate this here and start doing things with it, and and start working this accelerator. Then once it came online, and the gravitational field of this element 115 extended beyond the barriers of what it is, because it's been excited now.
Yeah. Then
they're able to take that and say, through their technology, amplify it. Now, if I knew how to amplify it, then I wouldn't be sitting here on the end of a microphone trying to figure it out. But that's what these propulsion scientists were doing.
That's what they're working on.
They're working on, and he says, hey, it's real and it works.
Mm-hmm.
And he now, he's not working in that field anymore. But think about how that let's just take it one step further. Is that if we are reverse engineering these things and this technology, now let's take it past Bob Lazar. Bob Lazar says, "Hey, I was there and I worked on it."
Yeah, only one small compartment. It's like you said, it's compartmentalized, so the government can't control it. No one person has all these pieces of the puzzle put together. Only the government, select few in the government, can take all the different departments and put them all together and say, "This is what we know."
Yeah. So there's other people, that we can talk about, and I'm not going to even bring their name out. Maybe I might bring it out, but there are people who have Wolf is by his last name. I can't remember his first name, but Wolf is, and I got it written down here. Carl Wolf, I think that's it. Is that he says that not only, he saw pictures of where spacecraft has went to the moon and did things. And it wasn't like our spacecraft; it was other spacecraft,
right,
where they saw things. But that our technology, if we have this ourselves. And Bob Lazar said, we worked on it. I saw the spacecraft move up and down. I saw the recovered spacecraft. I worked on the propulsion systems and we reverse engineer so we could take that and put that in our systems to be able to do stuff. So then now that the things that, I think about this here, why are they not so concerned about us not having a spacecraft? The space shuttle.
Space shuttle. Yeah.
Why are they not concerned about it?
Old news.
And going, y'all think that we can't get out into space because we don't have a space shuttle,
and they go up every night.
Yeah, they go up all the time.
Yeah.
So
it's cheap.
Yeah, so they're not that concerned. Why y'all spending all this money? We don't really need all that money. Y'all think we need it, but we don't really need it.
Yeah.
And so they're not that concerned about us being able to get out because we get out all the time, but they just do it through this alien technology that we have, to where some of the people are going to tell you is that we already have our own fleet.
That's right. That's what I've heard.
I've
heard Russia's got them too.
Yeah, we have our own fleet of that reverse engineered technology spacecraft for us to be able to get out and do things. So if we are out there doing things our own self, and we are reverse engineering things, I want y'all to really think about this here, is that if these beings that are out there, they have that technology too. And if they have the technology, then there's going to be some type of, a revelation of who these beings are. And every space program that they have, but when they went to the moon, like on Apollo 1 or every one of those missions, they all saw
UFOs.
stuff. They all saw,
all of them
saw UFOs. Yep. And they said, and they were the first ones, like what was it called? Santa Claus.
Yeah, that's what they called it when they saw him. That was their first code word.
Santa Claus. He's riding along beside us, even to the point to where I've seen some stuff to where they were walking in space with we had our own space helmets and all the stuff, and then all of a sudden cameras showed up and where we were getting ready to release some of the orbiters and the satellites. They looked down into the spaceship and they saw beings in there recorded, and all of a sudden the video disappears. It's gone because you're not supposed to be able to see what's going on here.
So that's part of the cover-up.
Yeah,
there's a cover-up, but I believe that in our generation that soon there's going to be the unveiling of the aliens, and that is going to be part of the Great Deception. The precursor to all of this was the establishment of evolution, because evolution has made way for this great delusion, this great deception that is already filtering through the world. Many scientists are now saying, the world had to be seeded. Somebody had to seed it. So now they're looking to the aliens as those who seeded the human race and started all of these things. And when these aliens show up, all right, and get out of their spaceships and say, yes, we are the ones, there are many Christians who are already compromised enough that they will say, it's millions of years ago. We don't know how God really did do it in the beginning. And they have already partially accepted evolution.
Right.
And tried to mix it in with their faith, which is absolutely undoable. You can't have both light and darkness in that same container.
Right.
So anyway, when they come, they will be a great deception, even greater than it is now. Because people will say, oh, my, Pastor, this is this is what really happened. The aliens are here. Aliens are real, Pastor. And they say,
and we're going to say, yeah, we tried to tell y'all. Y'all remember
Right.
we sat back trying to tell y'all all this was real, but y'all wanted to run to a church over yonder and said, them people are crazy, and you don't need to listen to none of them over there because they're crazy. And what God's trying to do is tell you, don't be deceived.
Don't be deceived. Because
be
even the
deceived.
very elect, it says, could be deceived.
Exactly.
If God didn't shorten those days. So the deception is a strong one. It's being built. This case is being built stronger and stronger. I've watched it in the last 5 years. This case is getting stronger and stronger every year. And soon that the space creatures, Nephilim, are going to show up.
Sure.
And there's going to be a great forsaking of God's house because many Christians are going to lose their faith.
Exactly.
Because they had their faith misplaced.
You know,
Anyway.
I've been listening to people like Tom Horn and different people like that who has really a Zenith 2016 book that he's written and just different things. He's trying to tell us that the Catholic, the Pope, they are already trying to figure out if there is a revelation of beings, how is that going to impact the Christian faith?
Right.
How is it going to impact the world? What are the Protestant going to do? What are the Catholics going to do? How is this going to be? Well, what will they be able to say? Will they be able to say, listen, that you were seated, that we are higher beings than you? What does that mean as far as having to be redeemed, or are they fallen beings like we are? Do you know what I mean?
Right.
It actually absolutely changes everything in this here who are out there. So I think it's
So
awesome.
we need to be doing what we're doing is putting out some answers before the question is asked.
Yeah.
And as long as we can, and God wills that we can have a program like this so that we can make the Christian community at least aware, at least think about it. Even if you don't agree, say you don't agree with anything we just said, okay, you're not going to forget it because you're probably upset with us for saying it.
Exactly.
So you're
They
not going to
tuned us
forget
out,
it.
yeah.
So if you don't forget it and you just got it filed in the back of your mind that there was these crazy Christians on this Christian radio station talking about aliens coming and they were demonic and that it would be a great deception, but Jesus was still in charge and, you know, we shouldn't believe the aliens, we should believe our Bible, then they at least will have something to fall back on.
Right.
They can at least say, hey, I did hear about this. Let's not believe those aliens too quick.
Exactly.
And so that's what I believe. And I do teach my church a little bit about this. And I've been doing it the last 2 Wednesday nights, I think I have, talking about this, trying to get them. And I tell them, just like we talk about here, listen, this is one of the scenarios that may be true. If this does happen, I don't want you to destroy your faith. I want you to say, yeah, my pastor said this could happen.
Exactly.
And that your faith would be intact. You'd still show up for Sunday morning service, and you wouldn't come in saying, Pastor, you were wrong. Now, if you come into my church and aliens have landed, you're going to say, Pastor, you was right.
Exactly right. I mean, they think we're crazy until we're right.
That's right.
Isn't that what you said?
That's what I say.
They think we're crazy until we're right. And then when we talk about, we got about 3 minutes to wrap this thing on up here.
Wow.
Bob Lazar is an amazing man. You
They
can
need
go
to look him
YouTube,
up.
look at him. He talks about the propulsion systems. I'm going to tell you what, by listening, there's a segment that he has on there. I will try to find that and put the link on our Seer Facebook page. I want everybody to do this here. You can go to Project Seer Facebook. There's the links to all the. This is like number 12. Can you believe we've been doing this 12 weeks now?
Wow, that's fast.
And it's just been amazing. It's been a wild ride for me to be able to present this in a fashion to where I think God would given us the opportunity. Here's what we say. Totally, this could be very disturbing. That's what Art Bell used to say. Very disturbing on coast to coast. Very disturbing. You could just write this off as these people are crazy, or as just listen. It's entertainment.
Or let me look and see if this is real.
Or let's check it out and see if it's real. You know, and just don't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
And if anybody wants to sponsor this show,
yeah,
we would love to have some sponsors.
I'm telling you, we get a lot of hits on off our YouTube. As soon as you get through with this here, you go to Studio WUCC. You can go to Project Seer, look at for SEE-012. That will be the program for today. And you can listen to it.
They can go to our webpage, make a donation, and they could tag it Seer.
Project Seer.
Project Seer.
And
And that would be a donation for us, and that would be a sponsorship.
A sponsorship.
Yeah,
if you
let's
like
get some sponsors.
If you like to sponsor this program, 3 times during the program, we can be able to tell you thank you for sponsoring what we're doing here in that. Steve, it's been my pleasure to be here today, and I know you're getting ready to go make the swap on this here. And listen, everyone, remember that Jesus is coming soon. He does not want his church and his church people to be deceived in what's taking place. So I've been your host of Project Seer, and to tune in next week, Lord willing, tune in next week. We're going to have a great topic as well. Remember, go to YouTube, Studio WUCC, and you can watch the program just in a few moments over and over and over. Tell everybody about it. God bless you. Thank you so much for being here with us today and listening to Project Seer. Here we go, right here. We're going to exit this thing right here and right now. Thank you for tuning in today. We've been your hosts, Henry Schaefer and Steve Hall. The end times are here. Anything is possible. Are you ready? Don't miss the next episode of Special Edition End Time Revelation.